All right. So used is a bit of a different animal altogether. Speaking of, let's move on. Buying a used vehicle, the main difference here is whether you buy it through a dealership or if you're buying it privately. Then you have to treat them differently. That's the main thing that you want to look for. And when you're buying it at a dealership, I will tell you already, you're going to have to pay both taxes. Right? You pay both taxes, GST and PST. So maybe write that down just as a reminder. Versus private, you only pay 7%. It's only PST that is paid for a private sale, and it is PST plus GST when you're buying it through a dealership. Okay, so that's the main difference. And so there's a significant amount of savings that you can have if you're able to buy privately. Okay. Let's talk about some things that will show up. A safety inspection. Every car, in order to be registered, like if it's purchased, right, you need to register it, and you need a safety inspection. Okay, and it needs to pass the safety. I will have my highlighter here. It needs to pass the safety inspection called COI, and that's a certificate of inspection. A COI is a certificate of inspection, and we'll go to page 9 in a bit. It is valid for, anybody know how long a safety will last? I'm sure some of you bought it. It's a year, yes. 1 year. Exactly from the date it passed, it's good for 12 months. So if you buy it and it was just safety, you can resell it within that year without having to do a safety again, right? So you could actually, if you don't want it, it's easy to sell because people don't want to buy a car that isn't safety, right? Because they don't know what's wrong with it. Then there's something called the book value. It is the value of the car based on its make and age. And I have to say that it does not always reflect the market value. Okay? I will say this. Book value is usually lower than market. Usually, not always, but the book value is usually lower than the market value. So if you buy a car for 10 grand, when you go to AutoPack to insure it, they might see it as only being worth 8 grand. And it's kind of just to have a reference as to, you'll see later for taxation purposes, okay? Purchase price, the actual value paid for the vehicle, it may be more or less than the book value. Okay, maybe more or less than book value. So what people have done in the past is they sold a vehicle, like on the bill of sale, they'll sell it for like $1 so that they wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. And so AutoPack said, wait a minute, we gotta have a baseline, right? And that's where the book value comes in. They have a way to figure out what the car is worth minimum, right? Then there's a trade-in. I'm actually going to mention this because I did that this last summer. If you want to buy a car, okay, and you're wondering what the book value is, go to an AutoPack agent and ask them what is the book value of, Ford F-150 this year, right? Make, model. And they actually go on their computer and they have 3 values. They have a low, mid, and a high price. So that you can kind of know if you're overpaying or if you're underpaying, right? If you're getting a good deal or not. So that's just an aside, okay? Trade-in, of course, it's the same as before. If there's a trade-in, subtract from the original price. We will do that if it shows up. So if a car is worth 5 grand and the trade-in is worth 2, then the $3,000 is taxed, right? So no news there. Parts and labor, okay? Any repairs and or work done, as well as parts being replaced, are taxed PST and GST, and that's 12%. So maybe let's just highlight that parts and labor are taxed 12%. It is a good idea to calculate the parts and label prior to determining the total cost of purchasing the car. I'll highlight that whole thing because I just added that after teaching it the last time, because some students want to do it all in one shot, and I always tell you do the parts and labor on the side and then we'll take it back to calculating the total cost. Okay, then there's something called a lien search. Most of you will never have heard of it, but a lien is a claim or a legal right against assets that are typically used as collateral to satisfy a debt. A lien is established by a financial institution. Okay. It serves to guarantee an underlying obligation, such as a repayment of a loan. I don't know why it says no there. Get rid of that. Just get rid of that no there. Otherwise, you're going to get confused. And so I will just give you an illustration. You don't have to write this down, right? So if you buy a BMW, let's say, and I'm getting a loan, right? Dirksen is getting a loan. The bank will put a lien on this car, right? They will put a lien, and actually you pay for that. It costs 50 to 60 bucks to put a lien on it. The bank charges you for it, by the way. They make sure they get their money back. So you cannot sell it to your friend, right? Because if your friend's bank looks up the searches for that car, you will give them a long VIN number, the vehicle identification number. It's usually by the dashboard. If you look in the front of the vehicle, they will do a search and they'll be like, sorry friend, we cannot give you the money because we did a search and this car actually is tied to this other bank. So let's say this is TD Trust and this is RBC, right? It could be the same bank, but there is a way that banks can look at all vehicles and all the liens that are out there, and they know whether or not that vehicle is attached. So your friend will not get the money from the bank because they don't want to risk it, right? So this is probably going to happen to you. So I bought a car this last summer, Ford F-150, right? So I wanted to get the money from my bank, and they said no, we can't because that person owes money on it. No surprise, that person told me, the seller told me that. So I'm like, what should I do? Well, you need to get your seller to pay that loan off. Get a letter. You need to get a letter where it releases. The bank says we release the car. It's no longer under our lien. And I give that letter to my bank, and then they give me the money. Okay. So these are things nobody talks about, right? I just found out like as I was purchasing, but it's a thing. Okay. So liens are there, and you can do a lien search to make sure nobody's pulling your leg, right? All right, let's talk about taxes. This chart right here can always be accessed. You can access that on your formula sheet. The back of that yellow sheet has that exact same chart, so you never need to guess what you pay in taxes, okay? You never need to guess. So let's quickly run through this. Taxes on vehicle purchases. If you buy a brand new vehicle, we already know that, it's 12%. So just write that down right here. because you pay PST, GST, that's 12%. Buying used from a dealer, you pay PST and GST, so it's also 12%. If you're buying used, but it is private, so used dealership, used private, you don't pay GST, right? You can cross that off. You only pay PST, so it's 7%. But let's see what it says there. PST is calculated on greater of book value or purchase price. Book value or purchase price. I would highlight that. Book value or purchase price. Greater. Okay. That is going to be the thing you need to watch out for. Which one is going to be greater, the book value or the actual price you paid for the vehicle? Okay. Safety. You don't pay the PST, but you do pay the GST, so it's 5%. Materials and labor, you pay both, so that's 12%. And lien search, no PST, no GST, so you don't have to pay any taxes on a lien search. Okay. I will tell you an instance where the book value could be greater than the purchase value. Have you ever heard of write-off cars, written off cars? Yeah. Every Wednesday, Autopack auctions off all the damaged vehicles. They have hundreds and hundreds. They have like 300 to 400 cars every week. I've been there. So they auction them off, and people buy them, and you can rebuild it, right? You can like fix it if you're mechanically inclined. I think some of you are mechanically inclined based on the questionnaire that I gave you. I don't know if in this class or a different class, but if you want to fix it up, you can do so and then sell it. And you have to make sure, like Autopack will make sure that car is under a rebuild status. It's not a regular, it's a rebuild. So obviously you have to sell it for a lot less, right? It would only make sense. So that's where your purchase price is going to be lower than the book value, most likely. Because whoever sells it has to sell it for less. So you should always ask if there's a price out there that's too good to be true on Kijiji or wherever, marketplace, something like that. Always ask the seller, is this a rebuild, right? Is this a rebuild or is this a brand, like, is there nothing wrong with it, right? So you can know for sure. Okay, these are the 3 things that you need to insure a vehicle in Manitoba. You need a certificate of inspection. That's the safety. You need a bill of sale. And you need a transfer of ownership. TOD. It's called a transfer. Let's make that capital, sorry. Transfer of ownership. So what is that? What is this little piece of paper? If you insure your vehicle, Autopack gives you a little blue slip that you put on in your glove compartment, right? At the back of that, there's a transfer of ownership. There's a little slot where if you want to sell it, you need to sign that and you're releasing it to the other person that's buying it. If you don't have these 3 pieces and you're going to go and insure it, they're not going to insure it. Autopack agent is going to say, you need to give me that piece of paper. Okay? So make sure these 3 things, you have them with you. If you ever buy a car, you need to have these 3 things on you. Okay? And I will probably quiz you on this. Okay, so you need to know that. Let's go to page 9 for a brief moment here. And it's just for you to know what it looks like. This is what a safety looks like, this paper. And it has 3 copies. It has a white, pink, and a yellow. Okay, you need the white one to insure it. If you get the pink or the yellow, Autopack is not going to insure it. So make sure that person gives you ideally all 3 copies, but the white one is the one you need for sure. Okay, and then here is a sample bill of sale. And if you ever want to get a bill of sale, just go to Autopack's website. They have a sample there. So let me just pause it on there. Okay. Using these formulas finds the total cost after tax. Okay, that's first bullet. Do not add taxes again. Okay, I see a lot of folks, they do this whole thing beautifully, and then at the end they go times 1.12 again. It's like, no, this step takes care of all the taxes that need to be paid. Okay, you're taxing everything differently, 5% here, 7% there, right? So don't tax again. Do not add taxes again. Okay, that's very important here, because then you're double taxed. That would be a pretty sad world to live in, right? Okay, just for the video here, I'm gonna make sure that the used dealer is in there and the used private. Add to study sheet. I don't know where you want to put that, but I would take my blue sheet here and I would just make sure I add used private and used dealer, and this will be hard to fit in most likely. So I don't know, it's okay to bleed into the box next to it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Okay? But I would definitely add this to my study sheet. Let's put these to the test now. Let's see if they work out for us. Oh, should I tell you what P&L means? P&L, parts and labor. If they ever mention anything like tune-up, oil changes, anything that needs to be done in terms of work, you can just put it under the P&L category, which we will do on the side. We will always do this on the side because it gets too messy plugging it into the formula like that. Okay. Okay, let's do some math here. Example 1. You agree on a price of $12,999 for a used car. It's a used car at a dealership. So when you see that, you're thinking UD, right? Used dealer. All right. You add a remote starter. So remote starter for $499. The dealer offers $3,500 for your old car, so that's the trade-in. I'll put that in there, trade-in. And how much is paid in total, including taxes. So used dealer, I'm going to take the price of the car. If you look at the formula, it says purchase price minus the trade-in, and that gets multiplied by 1.12. Does this question mention safety? No, but the formula talks about safety, but hey, ignore it. It's not, maybe it's already included. We don't need to worry about it. Parts and labor is there, and because there's only the $499, I will actually just write that in because that's the only number that appears, and I'm going to multiply by 1.12. Okay. Is there a lien? There's no lien search. Don't worry about it. So this is essentially, right? I will just make a note. No safety, no lien. So ignore. Okay. They're not talking about it, we're just going to ignore it. So that long formula just turns out to be this. Okay, so now you show me the work. 12,999. I will write down what that is. 94.99 times 1.12 plus 499.99 times 1.12. And now we can just enter that in one shot. See if you get the same as I. 11,198.87. There's that rounding again, right? 2 decimals, that 8 bumps that to a 7. So it's 87, including tax. After tax. This is tax already. No need to add taxes again, okay? You've done everything that needs to be done. So not much going on there. Pretty straightforward. Let's do example 2 here. Joel finds a Ford F-150 for $24,900, owned by a private seller. Private. So can we assume it's used if it's a private? Yeah, right? Yeah, okay. So we know just by seeing the private, right, it's used private. That's what we're going to use for this one. As is, when you see that word as is, you got to watch out on Kijiji, right? It basically is saying you're buying it as is, no safety. You got to take care of the safety. Right? The book value, there's that book value here. Very important. Highlight that or underline it. The book value of the vehicle is actually $32,000. I'm also going to underline the 24,900, right? Any number I will highlight. Joel pays $65 for safety, $30 for lien. Calculate. No parts and labor, okay? We don't have to worry about parts and labor. So I'm just going to use this formula. Let's just label this, folks, purchase price. That is what you're actually buying the vehicle for. Okay? So the formula, if you look up, I hope you can look at that formula as I'm doing this. Purchase price is what comes first. You're going to have to pay that. Then it says to add, this is, right, this is the book value. Book. Which one is greater of the two? It's obviously 32,000, right? So that's the one that AutoPack will tax you on this. It's like, that's not fair, right? They will tax you on the greater of the two. They make money. Okay, so times, what is it? 1.07. Plus, is there a safety? Yes, sir. Safety is 65 bucks. And you pay 5% on it. So this is the PST calculated. This is the GST on the safety. And lien doesn't have anything. So it's just 30 bucks even. No parts and labor, right? No P and L. Ignore. Okay. So that's what it's down to. So let's go ahead and calculate this. So it's 24,900. I'm going to do this in steps. So I'm going to go 32,000 times 1.07. That's 34,240. No, sorry. I made a mistake. Can you please everybody go up to that formula? It's 0.07. Sorry, folks. You'd be paying an arm and a leg if that's 1.07. Because you don't want to pay the purchase price and again, right, the full amount. So let's go back 0.07 and here's 0.07. I hope you you catch that. Make sure you make that change. Otherwise, you're paying 24,900 and 30 something thousand again. That's unreasonable, right? So let's try that again. 32,000 times 0.07. That's more like it. 2,240 is what you're going to be taxed for this particular vehicle. I hope I didn't confuse you too much there, folks. I apologize. Is it Monday? No, it's Wednesday. Can't even use that as an excuse. Okay, so it's that, and then 65 times 1.05, that's 6825, plus the 30. Now I can run this through and just come up with one final answer. Now I'm just gonna go, it doesn't matter which way, so let's add that up. And that is 27,238.25. That's how much you would have to pay for that car. Question: who collects the 7%? If you're buying it privately, do you give it to that person that is selling you the car? No, don't never give that to that person. Who collects that? When you register it, open MPI. When you take those 3 documents and you want to insure it, they're going to be like, sir, before you get it insured, you need to pay us, in this case, 2,240. They collect it. Don't give it to the person, okay? Because they will never see it again, right? How much did Joel pay in taxes? We have to do this slightly differently. Taxes only. Okay, so we can take the 2,240 because this is taxes plus what were you taxed here for your safety? This is actually easy to do in your head. It's 325, right? Here. And that's it. So you just paid this in taxes and the 325 in taxes. So let's add that. That's 2243.25. Taxes only. So maybe let's put arrows like this. There. And how did we get that number? You had 6825 minus 65, and that's 325. Okay, so that way you know where we got those numbers from. So if you're only wanting the taxes that were paid here, you have to just make sure you know where you got those numbers from. So we did a used dealer and a used private, and using those formulas, we just plugged in and calculated it. Okay. Go ahead. Let's try this question on the back here. What's that? Oh, you didn't finish. Okay, go ahead. No problem. Yeah, just let me know. The hint here is do the parts and labor on the side here. Calculate what the parts and labor would be in total. So hours that were worked on it, any parts, and come up with a total that you can insert it back into your formula later on. So do this on the side. So that should be your first thing here.